for 3, multiplying and dividing rational expressions. When we are multiplying or dividing rational expressions, we have to remember to factor completely. If we look at example 1a, we have 3x to the 7th over 2x to the 4th. So this is a lot like what we did in section 4.2. The 3 and the 2, if you want to separate it, separate it. The 3 over the 2, you can't simplify anything from that. Your x to the 7th over x to the 4th, your bigger exponent is on top, so take 4 away from that 7, keep it on top. So we're going to have 3x cubed over 2, and that would be your solution for that one. If we look at b, it's a little bit different. We have x squared minus 2x minus 3 over x squared plus 5x plus 4. So we have to factor that both of those trinomials. So the first one, the factors of that negative 3 that equal the negative 2 when you add them. You have a 1, you have a negative 3. This is going to give us a negative 2. So this is going to factor out to be x plus 1 times x minus 3. The bottom one, you have x squared plus 5x plus 4. Your factors of 4 that add up to be 5 are 1 and 4. So this is going to be x plus 1 times x plus 4. From here, you have to see what is the same on both the top and the bottom. It has to be exactly the same. So this x plus 1 is up on the top and the bottom, so they can cancel each other out. So the only thing you have left is x minus 3 over x plus 4. And that is your solution. For C, we have 16x over x to the power of 11 over 8x squared. So again, this 8 and this 16 can simplify. The 8 is going to become 1. The 16 will become 2. You have x to the 11th over x squared. That x squared is going to cancel out, and you're going to take 2 away from the 11. Keep it on top. So this is just going to be 2x to the power of 9. For D, we have 3x plus 4 over 3x squared plus x minus 4. So again, do what you know how to do to factor out that bottom. You can multiply the 3 times the negative 4. That's going to give you negative 12. We want to find the factors that add up to be the 1. So this is going to be a positive 4 and a negative 3. So negative 3 plus 4 gives us 1. So we're going to replace the middle and factor that. So 3x squared minus 3x plus 4x minus 4. Factor by grouping. The 3x squared minus 3x, we're going to factor out a 3. So it's going to be 3 times x, or sorry, 3x, not just a 3. This is going to be 3x times x minus 1. And then the 4x minus 4, you can factor out a 4. So this is going to be x minus 1. So both sets of parentheses are the same, so this factors out to be 3x plus 4 times x minus 1. So rewrite this to where you have 3x plus 4. You can put parentheses around that. Over 3x plus 4 times x minus 1. Those 3x plus 4s would cancel. The 1 on top would become a 1. So it's just 1 over x minus 1. For E, we have 6x squared plus 7x plus 2 over 6x squared minus 5x minus 6. So do the first. We have 6 and 2. That's going to give us 12. Your factors of 12 that add up to be 7 are 3 and 4. So this is going to be 6x squared plus 3x plus 4x plus 2. So factor by grouping. Factor out a 3x. Factor out a 2. We're going to have 3x times 2x plus 1 and positive 2 times 2x plus 1. So this is going to be 3x plus 2, and the other is going to be 2x plus 1. So we can replace the top with that. So 3x plus 2 times 2x plus 1. And then the bottom, we have the 6x squared minus 5x minus 6. So 6 times negative 6 is negative 36. You want to find the factors that add up to be a negative 5. We have 4 and 9. That'll give us a negative 5 as long as that 9 is negative, that 4 is positive. So we can rewrite this as 6x squared plus 4x minus 9x plus minus 6, sorry. So then factor by grouping. Factor out a 2x from the first, factor out a negative 3 from the second. It's going to be 2x times 3x plus 2, and negative 3 times 3x plus 2. So 2x minus 3, 3x plus 2. 2x minus 3 and 3x plus 2. Alright, so that 3x plus 2 is the same on both the top and the bottom, so those can cancel out. So the only thing we're going to have left is the 2x plus 1 over 2x minus 3. Because both of those terms in that set of parentheses are not the same, that is your only answer choice there. If we look at our next example, for A, we have 2x minus x squared over x squared minus x minus 2. So with the 2x minus x squared, we can go ahead and rewrite this also if we needed to. We can also factor out an x from that. So this is going to be x times 2 minus x. The bottom is going to factor out to be x minus 2 times x plus 1. You'll realize that that 2 minus x will be rewritten as x times negative x plus 2. And that's not the same as exactly one of the bottom sets of parentheses. So we're going to also factor out a negative 1. So that x is going to become negative, the one inside will become positive, and that 2 will become negative. So we'll rewrite this as negative x times x minus 2 over x minus 2 times x plus 1. So now we have two sets of parentheses that are the same. Those x minus 2's can cancel out, and we're just left with negative x over x plus 1. For B, we have 10 minus 2x over x minus 5. The 10 minus 2x, if you want to start by factoring out a 2, you can. That's going to be 5 minus x over x minus 5. We can rewrite that 5 minus x as 2 times negative x plus 5. Again, that's not the same as that x minus 5 underneath, so we're going to factor out a negative 1 as well. So make the 2 negative, turn the x to be positive, turn the 5 to be negative. So this is going to be negative 2 times x minus 5 over x minus 5. Those x minus 5s are the same on both, so now we're left with negative 2 over 1, which is just negative 2. With these, we have to express where the expression is undefined. I'm just now looking at the directions. You have to make sure that you take that bottom part and you set it not equal to 0 to tell me what x cannot equal. So if we look at this one, we have x minus 5 cannot equal 0. So add the 5 to both sides. We have x cannot equal positive 5 as well. So that is part of our answer. So when we write our answer, we're going to say negative 2, x cannot equal 5. For C, we have negative x squared plus 3x over 2x squared minus 7x plus 3. I'm going to factor out negative x from the top to give me x plus 3 left. And on the bottom, I'm going to take the 2 and multiply by the 3. We get 6. The factors of 6 that add up to be a negative 7 are negative 1 and negative 6. So this is going to be 2x squared minus x minus x minus 6x plus 3. So factor by grouping, we're going to factor out an x from the first. We'll be left with 2x minus 1. We'll factor out a negative 3 from the second. We'll be left with 2x minus 1. So this is going to be x minus 3 times 2x minus 1. So when we write this, x minus 3 times 2x minus 1. When we look at this, I realize that our negative or our positive here states that this should have been a negative. So if we look at this and rewrite it the correct way, this is going to be a negative. Hold on one second. So this is x minus 3. So we see that the x minus 3 is the same on both. So we're going to have negative x over 2x minus 1 as our solution. Now our job is to take both parts of that denominator, set them not equal to 0. So we had x minus 3 cannot equal 0, and 2x minus 1 cannot equal 0. So if we solve for x for both of these, we have that x cannot equal 3, and that x cannot equal 1/2 either. So our solution for this one would be negative x over 2x minus 1, and x cannot equal 1/2 or 3. For our next examples, we are factoring completely and determining where the expression is undefined. So we're doing the same thing here. So if we can simplify, we multiply, then we simplify even further. If we look at example A, we have 2x to the 4th y cubed over 3x squared times 15x squared over 8x cubed y squared. So if you wanted to multiply everything straight across, like some of you like to do, you can do that, or you can simplify first. I see that I have an x squared diagonally. Those can cancel out. The 15 and the 3 can cross simplify. The 3 would become a 1, the 15 would become a 5. The 2 and the 8 could also cross simplify. The 8 would be a 4, the 2 would be a 1. You have x to the 4th and x cubed, so that x cubed is going to cancel out the 4th, and it's just going to be x. Then you have a y squared, which is going to cancel out the 3rd, which is just going to be a y. So we have x, y times 5, which is 5xy, all over 4. Again, you could have multiplied these straight across and done the same exact thing, just simplified once you were done multiplying. If we look at B, we have x plus 2 over 3x plus 12 times x plus 4 over x squared minus 4. I like to factor before I multiply. So this, if I factored before I multiplied, would give me x plus 2 over 3 times x plus 4 times x plus 4 over x minus 2 times x plus 2. I'll realize that my x plus 2's are the same, so these would cancel out. Same thing with those x plus 4's are the same, so they would cancel out. So the only thing I have left in my numerator would be a 1, and in my denominator I have 3 times x minus 2, so I'm going to leave it 3 times x minus 2. Once again, I'm forgetting to figure out what x cannot equal. So we are going to take every part of what x or our denominator is and set it not equal to 0. So we have 3x plus 12 cannot equal 0, as well as x squared minus 4 cannot equal 0. So with the 3x plus 12 is not equal to 0, we're going to subtract 12 from each side, then divide by 3, and x cannot equal negative 4. For the x squared minus 4 is not equal to 0, we're going to add 4 to both sides, then take the square root of both sides, and we get that x cannot equal positive or negative 2. So we have our solution of 1 over 3 times x minus 2, and x cannot equal negative 4 or positive negative 2. For A, if we go back, we have 3x squared and 8x cubed y squared. If we set both of those not equal to 0, x just cannot equal 0, nor can y. So x cannot equal 0, y cannot equal 0. For C, we have x over 15 times x to the 7th over 2x times 20 over x to the 4th. So like I said, I know you like to multiply straight across. If you were to do that with this one, we would have 20x to the 8th over 15 times 2 is 30x to the 5th. Our larger exponent is on top, so we're going to get rid of the one on the bottom, subtract from the one on top. The 20 over 30 would become 2 over 3. So this would be 2x to the 3rd over 3. If we set our denominators not equal to 0, we see that x cannot equal 0. Because remember, 2x is not equal to 0. Divide by 2, we get x cannot equal 0. X to the fourth cannot equal 0. Take the fourth root of both sides. The fourth root of 0 is just 0. So x cannot equal 0. So it's just 2x to the third power over 3 when x cannot equal 0. For D, I have 10x minus 40 over x squared minus 6x plus 8 times x plus 3 over 5x plus 15. So I'm going to factor these out completely. The 10x minus 40, I'm going to factor out a 10. This is going to be x minus 4. The x squared minus 6x plus 8 is going to factor out. Again, what are the factors of 8 that add up to be a negative 6? We're going to have x minus 4 and x minus 2. With the x plus 3, we can leave it x plus 3. And then the 5x plus 15, we're going to have 5 times x plus 3. So if you wanted to, from here, you can set all of your denominators not equal to 0 and solve for them. We would have x minus 4 cannot equal 0, x minus 2 cannot equal 0, 5 cannot equal 0, we're not even going to bother with that, and x plus 3 cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal 4, x cannot equal 2, and x cannot equal negative 3. So we have to remember to include those in our answers as well. That x minus 4 is going to cancel, then that x plus 3 is going to cancel. So when these cancel out, we're going to be left with 10 over 5 times x minus 2, and x cannot equal 4, 2, or negative 3. If we look at our next example, we are factoring completely and determining where our expression is undefined. So we have 4x cubed over 9x squared y divided by 16 over 9y to the fifth power. So we can go ahead and keep change flip. This is going to be 4x cubed over 9x squared y times 9y to the fifth over 16. You could from here tell me what x is not equal to or y is not equal to. So x squared cannot equal 0. So x is not going to equal 0. And then just y, cannot equal 0. So from here, you can simplify before you multiply or multiply straight across. Totally up to you. I would simplify before I multiply. The 4 would become a 1. The 16 becomes a 4. The two 9s become 1s. You now have x cubed over x squared y times y to the fifth over 4. If you wanted to multiply straight across from here, you could, or you could have simplified the y and the y to the fifth to become y to the fourth over 4, and then that x cubed over x squared would just become x over 1. So from here, when we multiply straight across, we're going to have x y to the fourth over 4, and x cannot equal 0. If we look at our next example, B, we have x to the fifth minus 4x cubed over x squared minus x minus 2 divided by x to the fifth minus x to the fourth minus 2x cubed over x squared minus 1. So I want to factor all of this as completely as possible, or I can keep change flip and then factor. If I start factoring, I'm going to factor out an x cubed, and this is going to be x squared minus 4. This also is going to be x minus 2 times x plus 1. If I switch to multiplication and flip my second fraction, that x squared minus 1 factors out to be x minus 1 times x plus 1. And then I can start factoring that x to the fifth minus x to the fourth minus 2x cubed by factoring an x cubed to leave me with x squared minus x to the x squared minus x minus 2. So I can continue factoring here that x squared minus 4 is going to become x cubed times x minus 2 times x plus 2 over x minus 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1 times x plus 1 over x cubed times x minus 2 times x plus 1. So I'm going to get rid of whatever I can to begin with. I'm going to get rid of the x minus 2's because they're over each other. And then with the second fraction, I'm going to get rid of those x plus 1's because they're over each other. I realize that the only thing that I have that's the same that's across from each other diagonally is the x cubes. So I'm going to be left with x plus 2 times x minus 1 all over x plus 1 times x minus 2. Now I have to tell what x cannot equal. So I'm going to use the x minus 2, the x plus 1, and then I'm also going to use the x cubed and the x minus 2 and the x plus 1. So I have my x minus 2 cannot equal 0, x plus 1 cannot equal 0. I already have an x minus 2, I got to do that x cubed cannot equal 0, and then the x plus 1 I have as well. Alrighty, so I'm going to see that x cannot equal positive 2, x cannot equal negative 1, and x cannot equal 0. So my solution to this one is going to be, x plus 2 times x minus 1 over x plus 1 times x minus 2, where x cannot equal negative 1, 0, or 2. If we look at our next example, C, we have x squared over 4 divided by x to the 4th y over 12y squared. So again, keep, change, flip. We're going to keep that first fraction, so x squared over 4, change to multiplication, flip the second fraction, 12y squared over x to the 4th y. So we start here and we use that x to the 4th and that y cannot equal 0. You have that x cannot equal 0 and y cannot equal 0. So we have to remember to put those in with our solution. So if we can cross simplify before we multiply, we do so. The 4 is going to turn into a 1. The 12 will turn into a 3. From there, that x squared can turn into a 1, and we take 2 away from the x to the 4th in the denominator of the second fraction. So we're going to be left with 3y squared over x squared y. Those y's can also cancel out to be y squared minus the first. So this is just going to be 3y over x squared, where x cannot equal 0 and y cannot equal 0. For our next example, we have 2x squared minus 7x minus 4 over x squared minus 9 divided by 4x squared minus 1 over 8x squared minus 28x plus 12. So if we factor these here, with the 2x squared minus 7x minus 4, we can do the 2 times the negative 4. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. The factors of negative 8 that add up to be a negative 7 are a positive 1 and a negative 8. So this is going to be 2x squared plus x minus 8x minus 4. So factor by grouping, we're going to have x times 2x plus 1 and negative 4 times 2x plus 1. So this is going to factor out to be 2x plus 1 minus 2x plus 1 times x minus 4. So we're going to replace that top with that 2x plus 1 times x minus 4. That bottom of that first fraction, we can factor out to be difference of squares, so x minus 3 times x plus 3. We're going to change to multiplication, then flip the second fraction. With that second fraction, you can factor out the greatest common factor first. The greatest common factor there is a 4. Let's do this where it's the same, 4. So then we would have 2x minus 7, 2x squared minus 7x plus 3 instead. If we go to factor that, we have the 2 and the 3, which gives us 6. The factors of 6 that give us a negative 7 are a negative 1 and a negative 6. So it's going to be 2x squared minus x plus 6, minus 6x, minus 6x plus 3. So factor by grouping. Factor out an x, you have 2x minus 1. And factor out a negative 3 on the second, you're going to have 2x minus 1. So this is going to be 2x minus 1 times x minus 3. So replace that 2x minus 1 times x plus 3. Is that what they said it was? X minus 3. Okay. That's okay. Alright, and then that 4x squared minus 1 is going to be the difference of squares, so it's going to be 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 1. So if we want to factor, or simplify before we factor, those 2x plus 1s will cancel out. The 2x minus 1s will cancel out, so it'll just be 1 left. The x minus 3 can cancel out with the x minus 3. So we're just going to have x minus 4 over x plus 3 times 4 over 1. So this is going to leave us with 4 times x minus 4 over x plus 3. Now find what x cannot equal. When you do this, you're going to do the x squared minus 9 cannot equal 0, as well as the 4x squared minus 1 is not equal to 0. So move the 9 over, add it, take the square root of it. X squared is equal to cannot equal 9. So take the square root. X cannot equal positive or negative 3. With the 1, add it to both sides. You have 4x squared is not equal to 1. Divide by 4. You have x squared cannot equal 1/4. Take the square root of both sides. You have x cannot equal plus or minus 1/2. So you have to include these as part of your answers as well. So here's this. X cannot equal positive or negative 3, and x cannot equal positive or negative 1/2. So this whole thing is your answer. In our next set of examples, we are solving and checking our solutions. When we do this, we have to also determine where the expression is undefined. So we have to take those denominators and set them not equal to 0. So we have x squared minus 9 over x plus 3 is equal to 7. Factor out that x squared minus 9. We're going to have x minus 3 times x plus 3 over x plus 3 is equal to 7. You can start with this to where you have that x plus 3 is not equal to 0 and solve for x, and you get that x cannot equal negative 3. So we can put that x cannot equal negative 3. So from here, these can simplify to just be x minus 3 is equal to 7. We're going to move that 3 over by adding it to both sides, and you get that x is equal to 10. Now you need to simplify, or you need to check this. To check, plug it into the original. So we're going to have 10 squared minus 9 over 10 plus 3 is equal to 7. So 10 squared is 100. 100 minus 9 over 10 plus 3. 100 minus 9 gives us 91. Divide that by 13. That should give us 7, and in fact, it does. So if 7 is equal to 7, we know that our answer of that x is equal to 10 is our solution, and x cannot equal negative 3. For b, we have x squared plus 3x minus 4 over x minus 1 is equal to 5. So first start by factoring the x squared plus 3x minus 4. We can factor that to be x plus 4 times x minus 1 over x minus 1 is equal to 5. We know from the start, x minus 1 cannot equal 0. Add the 1, x cannot equal 1. So we are going to cancel out these x minus 1's, and then we have x plus 4 is equal to 5. Then we subtract the 4 from each side, and we get that x is equal to 1. But what did we say? X cannot equal 1. So this is no solution. For example C, we have x squared plus x minus 12 over x plus 4 is equal to negative 7. So again, factor the front or the top. We're going to have x plus 4 times x minus 3 over x plus 4 is equal to negative 7. So we can start by doing the x plus 4 cannot equal 0. To move the 4 over, we have x cannot equal negative 4. So your x plus 4's would cancel. We have x minus 3 is equal to negative 7. Add the 3 to both sides. You get that x is equal to negative 4. What did we say though? X cannot equal negative 4, so this is no solution as well. For D, we have 4x squared minus 9 over 2x plus 3 is equal to 5. So we can factor out the top with the difference of squares. So it's going to be 2x minus 3 times 2x plus 3. Keep it over the 2x plus 3. Set it equal to 5. We can start by saying 2x plus 3 cannot equal 0. Subtract the 3 from each side. Divide by 2. We have that x cannot equal negative 3 over 2. So from here, the 2x plus 3's would cancel, so 2x minus 3 is equal to 5. Add the 3. We have 2x is equal to 8. Then we divide by 2. We get that x is equal to 4. From here, you need to check. Just because your x is not equal to 4 and x is equal to 4 doesn't mean you don't have to check. You still have to check. So when you check, plug it into the original. You're going to have 4 times 4 squared minus 9 over 2 times 4 plus 3 is equal to 5. So 4 squared is 16. 4 times 16 minus 9 over 8 plus 3 is equal to 5. 4 times 16 is 64. Minus 9 over 11 is equal to 5. 64 minus 9 is 55. Over 11 is equal to 5. And 5 is equal to 5. So because that works, this x is equal to 4 as a solution, and x cannot equal negative 3 over 2.